if you would love to support us, we have just released brand new Gunz and Bunz merch. Yes, I have merch, ladies and gentlemen. But we have things from like t-shirts, stickers. We have
Cute little visor.
rash guards. Yeah, I got a visor. Maybe I'll sport it on the show sometime. But we've got a lot of cute merch for Gunz and Bunz. But you can find that at gunsandrolls.com. And then finally, I would love to invite you to just share this podcast with someone that you think would like it. And if you could subscribe to Guns and Rolls, you'll get to see more Guns and Buns episodes like this one.
Welcome to Guns and Buns, a podcast that celebrates strong, successful women. Please like and subscribe to our Guns and Rolls fitness channel to see more episodes like this one. Today is our special Mother's Day edition with our mom, Bethany Guthard. She's a mom of 2 kids, Hannah and Jacob, and she's amazing at it. She has been married to Kevin for 20 years. She has 2 pups, Gunnar and Penny. Bethany is an elementary school teacher and has been teaching for 19 years. She graduated from Saginaw Valley State University with a bachelor's degree in elementary education. Bethany is a nationally board certified teacher and holds the title of teacher leader in her district. She is the host of this very podcast, Guns and Buns, where she highlights the strengths of the strong females in her life. Bethany is a Christian and singer and has sung in church and other various venues. She weightlifts and has been a runner and is a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. She has achieved double gold at white belt and blue belt in local tournaments and has even fought and won in a cage super fight. When she's not working, Bethany enjoys hanging out with her family and friends. She loves praise and worship, crafting, lettering, cute outfits, dress up, and singing, and also picture taking. Hi, Bethany.
Hi.
Mommy.
Mom, yes. Hi, guys.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? How you grew up?
Okay, well, originally I am from Sandusky, Michigan. And if you're from Michigan, you say, I'm from the thumb. So you go like this. So I'm from a really small farm town in Michigan and a really big family. We had 7 people in our family, my mom, my dad, and then I have 3 older sisters and a younger brother. And we grew up in church. My dad worked in a factory in town. My mom was a homemaker. Pretty much our entire childhood. And then they also took us to church. We were raised in church. It was a really important, like, backbone of our family. My dad was an ordained minister, but he didn't have his own church. So Christianity was a really big part of my life growing up and still is to this day. But yeah, we'd grow up singing in church and going to church all the time, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. So that was the bulk of my life. Didn't really participate in sports or anything like that growing up. But yeah, so my family was a really important part of my life. And I was at home until I was about 18, then went to college. And then, yeah, never looked back, never went back. But yeah, love my family, love my hometown, and I love to take you guys there every summer when we have a summer break and we get to go hang out in Michigan with my family. So
Yeah, it's a fun small town.
yeah.
So how is your favorite part of being a mom?
What is my favorite part of being a mom? Okay, so well, my favorite part of being a mom is the joy that you two bring to my lives, or to my life, I should say, our lives, Daddy and I. Yeah, I just love to see you guys happy. I love to see you put in a lot of work ethic, and then see like hard work paying off. I know recently we celebrated a big accomplishment for Hannah in volleyball, seeing her kind of master that overhand serve. So that was really awesome. I love that. Seeing you guys work so hard and do well in school. When you make friends and you have a good social life, those things are really important to me. So just, I would say my favorite part is seeing like your strengths and seeing you guys be happy and doing what you love to do is probably what makes me the happiest.
How did you end up in South Carolina?
All right. So how did I end up in South Carolina? So this kind of goes along with Daddy. I mean, we kind of missed that part, but like, so Daddy and I met back in college. And he was from Florida, and we went to Florida first. So that was the first part. So we went to Florida first after college, and we lived down there, I want to say 5 or 6 years. And I got my first teaching job down there. And it was great when I was 25. But then when we decided we wanted to be parents and we wanted to have kids, we were like, we need something a little more slower paced, but maybe even something a little more like Michigan, but not as cold as Michigan, not as extreme as Michigan. So we decided to we originally planted ourselves in North Carolina, in Charlotte. And that was cool for about a year or two. And then when we decided we were going to buy a house and have kids, we moved to South Carolina. So that's how we ended up in South Carolina. I teach in North Carolina, but live in South Carolina.
So how did you and Daddy meet?
Let's talk more about that. That's awesome. Thanks, Jacob. So Daddy and I met in college, like I said. It's kind of funny. So I didn't meet him my first year in college, my freshman year, but sophomore year, so second year coming back. I actually, funny story, ended up coming during the summer. So school wasn't in session at the time. Maybe like summer session for college was actually happening at that moment. But my best friend Jessica and I at the time, we were these mentors in this program called Cardinal Connections. And they were having us come back to campus early to welcome incoming freshmen that were mentees. And we were to be mentors to these mentees coming in. And the whole premise of the Cardinal Connections program was to encourage incoming freshmen to come into college by making an alcohol-free transition. So I know this is a little above your heads, but in college, sometimes, you're becoming an adult, you're gaining your freedom from your parents and your family, and you make choices. And so anyway, Cardinal Connections was all about, hey, we can have fun, we can go to events, we can have friendships and stuff, but it doesn't have to encourage drinking or alcohol. So that was kind of the premise of the program. And so Jessica and I at the time were mentors, and we kind of joined this program together. But it was also a cool way to meet other people on campus and also meet the people below you that you were mentoring. And so we came during the summer to do this program. And we were just hanging out in what was known as the Cardinal Cage at the time. And it was like a gaming room, like an arcade. They had a pool table and foosball and all those fun things. And so we're just hanging out, and all of a sudden this big guy walks in, and I was like, ooh, he's cute. And anyway, so at the time I was with 2 other girls, and the 3 of us were all like, who's that? And we were all talking about him. And well, anyway, long story short, that night a bunch of us ended up hanging out in one of the dorm rooms. And the one thing I remember about Daddy is like, he was just so funny. He had us all laughing. He had us all captivated. No joke. Like, he literally was sitting in a chair, and us girls are like on the floor like it's story time. And we're just so mesmerized by him and listening to him and laughing at him. And he's telling jokes, and I thought he was hysterical. So, like, we ended up staying up, I think, in the dorms. Like, it was a bunch of us just hanging in the dorms. We stayed up until like 2 a.m. I remember the next day I had to drive home to Sandusky. I had to work the next day. And when I came back to school, like a couple weeks later, when school started in August, I ran into him again. And the funny part is I saw him walking with one of my friends from back home, my friend Monique. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to intercept him. I have to run into him. And I literally planted myself in front of him so that he'd see me again. And it was so funny. Yeah, long story short, we ended up hanging out, a bunch of us, some of my friends, and and then we ended up just, liking each other and dating. And 25 years, because I met him in 2000, 25 years later, we're, going strong.
How long would you say you guys were dating until he proposed to you?
Oh, and that's a good story too. So yeah, Kevin and I, Daddy and I, so I met him in 2000. I mean, we were dating within that year, right? Like, yeah, so there's that. And then we got married in 2004. So 2003, we were going to college, right? Just taking classes, right? And Daddy had joined the Marine Corps. He joined the Marine Corps in 2001. So the Marines are a big part of this. So that was a great question, Hannah. So met him in 2000. 2001, Daddy ended up joining the Marine Corps, and it was because he was going to, he needed another way to pay for college. And so because of the GI Bill and what the Marines could offer for school and things like that, he decided to join the Marine Corps, and he went to boot camp in the summer of 2001. So he was gone for 3 months. And that also just made our love for each other grow stronger, because when when you're apart from each other, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yes, I've seen all the scrapbooks.
Right, yeah. So he went to boot camp, and he came home in August. And then September 11th happened that year. And I know you guys know a little bit about that. But then fast forward a couple years later, and it's now 2003. And Daddy and I are about to go on spring break in February. It's like February or March, right? No, February, I believe. And we have a group of friends. We're all going down to Florida. The plan is to go on spring break. And it's literally the day before we leave for spring break. Daddy gets a phone call from the drill center saying like, hey, like, we need you to report to the drill center. And that him and his platoon, that they're getting activated and going off to war. And so that happened.
Scary.
Very scary. And literally within I want to say it was like 24 hours, Daddy had to fill out a will. He had to like put all of his things in storage, drop his college classes, not knowing if he's coming back. Like I put a lot of his things, I held on to a lot of his things at that point. We had to go to the drill center, and his parents flew up from Florida. We end up going to the drill center, and he's literally leaving like a day or two later. I can't even remember. It's kind of fuzzy right now. But in that moment, we knew we wanted to get married. We had talked about going to the courthouse and getting married before he even left. So we had that commitment so that I would be taken care of if something happened to him. And, just it provided more opportunity. Also, we already knew we were going to get married at that point. But then we ended up not doing the courthouse thing. We're like, let's just, we'll tell people we're engaged. We'll just say, hey, we're engaged. We don't have money for a ring right now because we're in college. But we're like, we'll tell people we're engaged. And so we kind of told his parents and everything. And so we're sitting in the drill center. This is like before they leave. They had like a family day. Like there's family everywhere. And people were literally sitting on the floor, if I remember correctly. And his mom pulls out a ring, and she's like, you're engaged, huh? And she's like, well, how about this? Here's a ring. And she gives the ring to Kevin to give to me. Oh, I don't know. I'm tearing up. It's so weird. But anyway, so yeah, he proposes in that moment with the help of his parents. He loves to tell people it wasn't his choice, but that his parents proposed on his behalf. But it was really cool in that moment. And then afterwards, like my family came, and we all went out to dinner or lunch at the time. I don't even remember. And yeah, and then like a year later, almost a year later, 10 months later, he comes back from Iraq, which was really scary. That was hard. I never anticipated he would go off to war because he was in the reserves in the Marine Corps. But anyway, so he ends up coming back in November. I would say that was one of the top 10 best days of my life. Maybe top 5. Top 5 best days of my life when he came home. And we were married when he was gone, I was planning our wedding. I was planning everything. And then we were married by August of 2004. So I know that was a really long story to answer your question. But yeah, it was kind of like we met in 2000. The Marines and the war really played a big part in that. That kind of moved the engagement along, right? In 2003, and then 2004, August, we were married. And last August, we just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary, which is crazy to me because I don't feel old enough to be married 20 years. But yeah.
That's an amazing story because it also makes you guys like your marriage so unique because like everyone else it wasn't like that, but you guys really loved each other.
I love that, Hannah. And I love too because nowadays like people like plan, like I always feel like now there's photographers to capture the engagement moment, and there's all of these, like I don't have that, but like I have that memory. I have a box full of letters from Iraq that serves as a testament to that time and our love that we had during that time. So it's a different story, and it's amazing. I always joke that like I couldn't get married today because it's so expensive and it's such an elaborate process, it seems nowadays. But our story is our story. It's unique and I love it too. So thanks for saying that.
What pushes you to do what you do every day?
What pushes me to do all the things that I do every day? There's a lot of things actually. I would say that you guys push me and Daddy pushes me. I do appreciate other people affirming my hard work. And so I do feel like a lot of what I do is driven by words of affirmation by other people. So like if I'm at work and people are saying, you know, awesome, that only makes me want to work harder. I'm also driven by competition. I'm driven by, oh, you're doing that? Well, she can do that. I can do that. Like it motivates me. It doesn't cause me to be like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like it fuels my fire. So like seeing what other people are doing, it kind of pushes me to work harder. And then obviously like Daddy has all these bright ideas. Kevin has bright ideas and always knows like that I like to work. I really do. Idle hands, I'm just like, I can't handle it. Over the summer when I'm off, I'm always like, what else can I do? What else can I pursue? And so Daddy, I think, knows that. And so when he comes up with great ideas, he's always like, I think you could do this or that. And so I would say it's a little bit of everything. I think it's you guys. I think it's Daddy. I think it's people affirming me with good words. I think it's competition. I think it's also wanting, again, I've said this in other episodes of this podcast, I think it's me wanting to glorify our God in heaven, right? Like God knows, I mean, he knows who I am. I know I'm capable of so much more. And I think a lot of times we relent, we back off as human beings because we're tired. We don't want to. We see what other people do and we're like, well, they're not doing that. I'm not going to do that either. But I think it's important to live to the best of our ability and to pursue excellence. And I know my family has also said that. I also have good role models in the people around me. I also see that at school. I see it at Jiu Jitsu. I see it everywhere around me. So it's always in front of me. So it pushes me to just work harder. Sometimes I feel like we do so much with sports. We do so much with all of the things, right? Like our family, we're always busy and on the go. Sometimes it's hard to want to do your best and it's hard to want to do all the things. But I think that's when you got to keep just pushing even harder. So I don't know if that answered that, but I think it's a little bit of everything. Thanks.
Okay, Jacob's going to ask the next question.
All right, Jakey.
What does strong mean to you?
Oh, what does strong mean to me? Yeah, I've thought about this question because all the other women that I've interviewed, I've asked them that question too, right?
Strong question.
Right? So I love when girls or other people say, you're so strong. And I'm like, yes, I love that. I was also thinking about this question, like adversity, right? Like going through a challenge or a struggle usually, and you come out on the other side, you usually feel strong. But I would say like, sometimes strength can also be when you're waiting for an answer to come, when you're waiting for something to get solved. And in that process of just kind of waiting on God to kind of guide you, I think it takes a lot of strength to do that because when you're going through something hard and you don't know if it's ever going to give up or relent or if it's ever going to change, it takes a lot of strength to just trust God. I think the Bible says like, put on the full armor of God so that when you're withstanding something or going through a trial, like it makes you that much stronger, right? Like relying on God's strength to get you through that moment. And so I'm not saying I have that figured out. I definitely stress. I definitely cry. I definitely yell and like carry on when I'm going through a hard time or I feel a big lump in my chest when I'm like struggling with something and I want to fix it in that moment, but I can't. But I do think that process of kind of waiting on God in that moment is true strength, right? And so I think casting your cares on him is what true strength is. Jacob,
Yeah,
to
like
go back to that question.
Believe,
Yeah, definitely.
Would you say that you are a strong woman?
I love that he asked that question. That's so cute. Do I think I'm a strong woman? Yes. Even though sometimes I don't feel strong. I think we have moments of weakness, but yes, I would say I am. because I'm, again, going back to that, like what pushes me to do my best. I'm always looking for improvement. It is very hard to take criticism from other people or constructive criticism, or to hear, hey, you need to be better at this or whatever it may be. But like, I would say, yeah, I think I am physically, sometimes mentally, I might not say I am, but physically I feel like I am strong, and I know there are other girls that can still beat me in jiu-jitsu and do things probably better than I can do, but I feel like I have gotten stronger and stronger through the years. I say all the time, I feel like I'm in better condition and shape today than I was in my 20s, even though I may have been skinnier. I'm like, I'm probably much stronger than I was then.
Yeah.
I bet my 43-year-old self could beat my little 23-year-old self up. So definitely physically strong, yes. Spiritually strong, I think there's always ways to grow, right? Like get stronger, but I have a firm belief in God, and Jesus is my Lord and Savior. I definitely know there's things I could do there to shore up that. Emotionally strong, maybe not. I am a crier. But yeah, I would say overall, yes, I am physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally strong. And I just always think there's ways to get better in every avenue of your life. But yes, I am. Thanks for asking that, Jacob.
Okay. Well, would you say that you are, we already asked that question. What does success mean to you?
Success. Okay. So, I'm a teacher, and as a teacher, almost every day I question there are days where I feel amazing. I'm like, I am so awesome at my job. And then there are days where I'm like, today sucked. Like today was awful. Like I feel there are many days where I feel less than, or I feel like I'm not doing as good as this person next to me. But I would say that I am successful in my career, because going back to some of those positions I hold as a teacher, I'm nationally board certified. That is a very difficult process. It's a long process. I really doubted at first if I could do that or not. So being nationally board certified is a huge deal. And I went through the initial certification process, which took a year of my life. And it took a lot of hard work. It took time away from you guys. I remember you guys were really little. Jake was only maybe 2 years old at the time when I did that. I got certified in 2018 initially, and it was just a really long process. And then, since then I've recertified. So I had to go through another process. Again, not as long, not as difficult, but equally long. But just equally challenging, I would say, in that sense. So I've done that. I've also done, I've accomplished this teacher leader position in our district, which, it's more pay. It's kind of like an incentive. There's an incentive to do it with the extra pay. But basically you take on additional roles in your school if you're a teacher leader. So I do that. I am PADEA lead for the entire school. And if you don't know what PADEA is, it's kind of like a Socratic seminar where you come up with a text, you come up with a lesson plan of questions. I design slides for the school. I hold monthly meetings for all of the PADEA leaders or reps, the reps for each grade level in our school. So I do that monthly. I run the meeting. I do the agenda. I do everything for that. I'm also the social committee chair, and have been, I would say, the bulk of my time at my current school, Elon Park, my last school. I shouldn't say current school, my school in CMS. And so social committee, I plan events, I plan like happy hours, I manage the budget, I hold meetings for that, I do the agenda for that, I send the emails, I do all the communication for that. So like, it's a lot, right? So I do all those pieces. And so going back to that question about success, right? Like, what does success look like to you, right? Some people may look from the outside in and be like, she's just a teacher. That's not successful. She's not making the money that a millionaire makes, right? Or someone who maybe is a CEO of a company. But I'm a CEO of a classroom, and I'm taking care of 25 little third graders on a daily basis. And I've been a teacher for 19 years. How many people have I influenced? How many?
Yeah, a lot.
A lot. My first class of fifth graders, I taught fifth grade for 15 years before this, and my first class of fifth graders are I mean, if they were 10 at the time, they're what, almost 30? I mean,
Crazy.
19 years of teaching, right? Like they're 29 years old. And so I've influenced a lot of people, I would say, in my life. And I think that's success. I think holding these titles, working to the best of my ability, getting all the possible certifications I could get, maybe to do what I'm doing in my classroom, not to get another higher position. No, I don't have my master's degree. I never went back for that because at the time I was like, I'm in the classroom, and I couldn't fathom paying more debt on top of what I was already doing with my undergrad. And so to get a master's degree, I never got that, and now it doesn't pay to do so. But I've done all I can do to be a teacher in the classroom and to do the best for kids on a daily basis, and to be creative in your classroom and to manage your classroom on a daily basis. And there are, going back to 25 little factors that are making their own decisions, have their own brains, have their own behaviors and personalities. Jacob knows, he's a third grader. I mean, I think I'm successful. I think I am doing my job to the best of my ability for my kids, for myself. I'm trying my hardest every day. And so, yeah, I think I am successful. And I'm also in other areas of my life too, right? Like I try to do all the things that a mom should do, a working mom, a wife. I'm trying to run a household. I'm not saying it's always clean, but I'm always trying to like keep the house clean. I'm trying to do all the social events for myself, do the mom groups, like tonight I'm going out to dinner with some mom friends. Like I do that. I'm trying to do your social calendar, get you guys to all your birthday events, your things that you have to do, practices, games. Like you guys are in multiple sports. How many sports, Hannah? You're like in 3. Jacob's got Jiu Jitsu and baseball right now. Hannah's got volleyball, 2 dance classes, and Jiu Jitsu. I'm doing Jiu Jitsu. Daddy's doing Jiu Jitsu. We try to do tournaments. Like I'm running a podcast. I'm trying to do, Daddy's helping with that. He's editing and publishing and doing all these things, right? And it's like, it's a lot. It's a lot to manage, and plus work, plus be a Christian, go to church on Sunday. I want to do extra things at church. Like you serve on Sundays. Like I would love to do that. And so going back to that question, like what does success look like? I think it's all of those things. Do I think I'm successful? Yes, because I'm doing what I can to create little human beings that are going to grow up one day and make a difference in the world and do the best of your ability. That's what I really want for you two. I want you guys to go off into the world and be successful and in whatever success is to you, right? Like in your own right? Because I think it's different for everybody. But yeah, I would say I'm pretty darn successful with what I do.
Yes, I believe you're very successful because you're very busy. I mean, like you do everything. Like go to church on Sundays, check. Like you take us everywhere. You like do everything. I mean, we have 2 dogs too. Yeah. And like they're still kind of puppies, so we have Gunner chewing on walls and Penny peeing all over the place.
Gotta clean that up.
Yeah, but you do everything. So I just think you're very successful.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Jabe's going to ask the next question.
How did you start BJJ?
Oh, okay. So we're going to switch gears. We're going to do Jiu Jitsu. Okay.
Yes.
So, COVID, that little thing called COVID in 2020.
Mm-hmm. I know it, right?
2021. It was January of 2021. We started at Triumph Fight Academy, and Hannah and Kevin kind of started first. So Daddy had been in jiu-jitsu. He had dabbled in jiu-jitsu. You know, he has a great track record of being involved in sports growing up. And, he's a jack of all trades. He's just good at every sport he does. And then there's someone like me who's never dabbled in any sport. I mean, I have, but like I did basketball. I attempted basketball a couple times growing up. I did. Running was always kind of something I did growing up too. But sports weren't a thing in our household, but Daddy, it was, right? And he did everything. And he did wrestling in high school along with, football and all the other things, right? And then, he was in the Marine Corps, and it bode nicely for grappling, right? Because it's Marines. You got to be able to take on someone, and they would have little grappling tournaments or episodes. I don't even know. I remember him telling me about grappling other Marines and things like that. And so then he got into jiu-jitsu. And first he was at Great Grappling, and he was there, I would say maybe a year. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then he kind of, waited to kind of see what's going to happen with this COVID thing. Am I going back? What's happening? And then it just kind of, that year was just, we all know what it was. And so 2021, showing my age there. 2021 comes around and now he's like, hey, we're going to do jiu-jitsu. He had worked with David Chuklia. And David told him about Try and Fight Academy. And so he was like, you need to check it out. So Daddy heads on over to Triumph and we get you signed up. At the time, I think Jacob was 5, about to be 6 in April. And I think in the kids class, you had to be 6 or have to be 6, 5 or 6. And so Jacob didn't start till about April. And then, I would bring you guys, going back to, we were just talking about me running you to all the sports because Daddy's work schedule, sometimes he works later than I do. Yeah. And so I would run you guys to jiu-jitsu. I'd sit there for the hour. I'd kind of watch, take it all in. And I remember one specific day, though, I came to pick you up. I don't know if that was a weird day where I dropped you guys off or something, but there was a day where I came to pick you guys up. It was 6 o'clock. I walk in, and Avery comes over, and he goes, you training today? And I was like, what? No. And there were a couple times, too. I think at this point, I had already started lifting, and so I'd always post my lifting posts and pics. And Avery commented on 1 or 2 of them. He goes, bring that muscle to the gym. And he had said something like that. Like it was along those lines. Like you need to, what's great? Like muscle so you can strangle people. Or he said something like that. It was funny. Yeah. Like he kind of had fueled my fire or had, planted a few seeds. And then that day I came to pick you guys up and he was just like, are you training today or what? And then Stephanie Chuklia, not David's wife, but David's sister-in-law. So Stephanie was there. And she was like, yeah, you need to do it. And she kind of she was ready already in her gear. Like she was getting ready to do the 6:15 adult class. And so she said something too. And I was like, oh, who's this cute girl talking to me? She does it? Okay. And I just remember thinking like, okay, well, that's a couple. I mean, it doesn't take much to influence me. I'm very, I would say that I'm easily influenced, right? And so the fact that they said it and I'm like, they believe I can do this. It was kind of like, I would have never believed I could do that. Right.
Yeah.
And then, them kind of encouraging me to do it was kind of like, maybe I can. And I don't mean to steal your thunder if you have any questions about this, but let's go back, the weightlifting piece. And right now I'm not lifting on the regular because I am doing jiu-jitsu and our schedule's kind of busy. But once summer comes around, I'm going to get back to lifting hardcore. Like I usually do every summer. Lifting, I kind of fall in love with lifting again. But can I back up a little bit? And I want to tell a little bit about my weight loss journey too, because, my entire life, I feel like I was in like the 120s, 130s, right? Like typical, like just normal. I feel like it was a normal size. Yeah. And then I had you, lost the baby weight. I think I gained 20 pounds with you when I was pregnant with you and then lost the baby weight. And then I was back to my normal size, but I think I was more in the 130s now, not high school weight, right? But like 130s. And then I had Jacob and I lost all the weight when I was kind of breastfeeding Jacob at the time. And I got down to the 130s again. And then I started at Elon Park in 2017, my teaching job. And when I was there, I don't know if it was just the stress of a new school or if it was the stress of just teaching or what, managing a little baby. Now I have 2 kids, not just one. I gained a lot of weight. And I remember I got close to 160. And to be 5'3" and be 160 pounds. And like, I didn't realize how I looked until I started looking at pictures and I was wearing things that I was covering myself up and I just didn't like the way I looked and I felt terrible. And, so I remember it was at the time you were taking a dance class at Miss Laura's School of Dance and I saw another mom and she had lost a bunch of weight doing keto, the ketogenic diet. And Kevin and I had heard a podcast about how this doctor put his son on the ketogenic diet, cut out basically pretty much all sugar. And this doctor was talking about his kid had like these cognitive issues and was having seizures. And the second he put him on the keto diet, the seizures subsided or stopped. And so I heard about it, about how it's really good for the brain and how it's good for the body, but then also how it's really good for weight loss, right? And I had seen this mother and how she had lost all this weight. And I was like, I need to do that. And I made up my mind. I remember that day. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow this diet. So I started doing the diet. And I want to say it was at this point, 2018. And then I told myself I got to get my diet in check first, lose weight. And then I started lifting because I felt like I couldn't navigate both of those things at the same time, because it does take a lot to manage your diet and also work out and have a new baby. He was like a year old at the time, 2 kids now in the house, plus I'm a teacher in a new school. Like I had all these different things, right? And so then I started in 2019 doing the lifting, the weightlifting. And Daddy, Kevin's been a personal trainer. He has, weightlifting's been a big part of his life, being an athlete, being in the Marine Corps. He's lost weight, many times. Lifting's just been really important to him. And, that's always I've dabbled in it here and there all throughout our marriage. But there was something different about 2019. It's like, I was like, no, I'm going to make this work. And I did an entire year where I would say I was really consistent, lifting probably at least 3 to 4, maybe 4 to 5 times a week. That was the most consistent I had ever been in my life with that. I was also running too at the time. I've ran a few races and I've done that throughout my life, but I would say lifting kind of changed my idea about health, about just being strong, going back to that strong question. And can you repeat the question? What was the initial question? Because this all circles back to it. Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes. How did you start jiu-jitsu?
So, sorry, that was a really roundabout way of answering
It's
that.
all right.
But I think all of this it goes with it, right? It's a journey, right? And so the lifting, I started posting about that. And then with, other people believing in me, you can do this. And now I see the lifting is so important to jiu-jitsu. I think I said this in a previous episode, how like I can tell the difference between some of the girls that are strong lifters that lift all the time. And I hear it a lot too from other girls, like, oh, you're so strong when I'm on top or something, or holding them, or like whatever it may be. And so now it's almost like lifting has become really important, where I need to keep that up, because it's going to help jiu-jitsu. And, Daddy like has been a big backbone of that too, like with his knowledge of personal training and his knowledge of lifting and jiu-jitsu as well, and all the other sports he's done. He's there. He kind of is always in the back of my, in the back, just telling me I can do it. Because I think sometimes we don't always see what we're capable of doing until others believe in you first. So sorry, that was really long, but it all goes together. I think it's all really important.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't ready to ask the next question.
It's okay.
How did you start the Gunz and Bunz podcast?
Oh, okay. So yeah, this kind of lends itself too to everything I've just been kind of speaking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, so with jiu-jitsu, never thought I would do something like that. In fact, there was someone at school that told me, they're like, you're still doing that? They're like, when you first started, I was like, okay, cool. And then you've been consistently doing it. So it's kind of shocking. But, so doing jiu-jitsu, it's kind of like, I would have never seen someone like me. If you ask Muriel Ferguson, my mother, she would be like, I can't believe she does that. Like, she thinks it's shocking, right? Because I've evolved. I've changed, right? Over 43 years. And so someone like me, teacher world, like I would never see another, like teachers don't typically do this, right? It's combat. You're fighting someone. Not that you're striking, but like there's no striking, but you occasionally get an elbow or a knee or get a black eye. Yeah. You get bumps and bruises. Would you guys agree? You get sore.
Yes.
You have to wrap things every now and then. And so you don't typically see teachers doing that. Honestly, now that I've been in the sport longer, I know this is false, but you would probably think that most moms wouldn't do this sport, right? Like you wouldn't think unless they've done it from a young age. Like a lot of the women in this sport are in their 20s or young, like they're young. It's maybe something they've done a long time, or they're kids like you, right? We have a lot of girls, but they're kids, right? And so I think in the back of my mind, I had these preconceived notions of the type of woman, almost like a stereotype, like a type of woman that would do this sport. And now, after being in jiu-jitsu for almost 3 years, it'll be 3 years in July. Whoa, 3 years in July.
Ooh.
I know. 3 years in July. Now I see that there really is no type of woman that does it. I think any woman that like wants to get into this sport to kind of learn self-defense or to strengthen her body or to learn how to use her body to the best of her ability. Because I think it's more like CrossFit in the sense of functional fitness, right? Like if you know Jiu Jitsu, it permeates kind of into all these other areas of your life, right? Like there's so many lessons learned from it. I teach about it when I'm in morning meeting. It comes up. It's a great analogy for life. Yes. And so the reason I got into the podcast was because I saw all these females and we all have great stories. And I'm always intrigued by like, well, how did you start? What was your journey? What brought you to jiu-jitsu? I know why I started. I started because of my husband and my kids. Like you were the first one to really start in January of 2021, right? And so I kind of wanted to hear what their story was. And, you know, Kevin had kind of had this idea too. He was like, you know what would be really cool? We should do a podcast. And he knows I like to talk. You know, I'm a teacher, so I like to talk, guys. Sorry, I'm better at talking than listening. But he was like, you know, you could do this. And we could get some of these girls to come and share their story. And it also spreads the love and awareness of jiu-jitsu. But it also celebrates women no matter what their daily job might be. If they're a kid doing jiu-jitsu, you know, if you haven't checked out Hannah's episode was great. We interviewed her and she was a shining example of the women in jiu-jitsu. So going back to why did I start Gunz and Bunz, I just think that it's a great way to get all of our stories out there, to celebrate women, to celebrate each other, to celebrate the sport of jiu-jitsu, to celebrate, women in any area, because you don't have to do jiu-jitsu to be on this podcast, but just to celebrate the strength and success of other women. I think it's really important. And hopefully, you know, cool, we get some new following, a new following along the way. Maybe we get some people that start jiu-jitsu along the way. Maybe we encourage other people, whatever journey, they're on. Maybe we're going to have a guest that will speak to them. And so I think it's really important. I think it's hopefully making a difference in lives of other people, even if it's a small podcast. That's ultimately the goal, to share other people's stories and maybe inspire some other people and make a difference.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Back to the teacher and jiu-jitsu part.
Yes.
Sometimes I think it's really funny because you come home and you tell us the stories about how your kids are like, we saw your video of your fights and stuff. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you a question about your super fights, because in your bio, you said you fought in a cage super fight. So I was just wondering if you could tell us some more about that.
Yeah, I would say that's probably one of my biggest accomplishments too. A really awesome moment, because I remember that was the same one you did, right? Like you did a super fight that time too, right? But they were different times of day, right? And so I remember we had just come off of a Disney cruise, right? And we had already put in the application for Hannah to do one and for me to do one. And I don't know what I was thinking when Kevin asked me, do you want to do it? I was like, sure. You know, I said I'm easily influenced, right? If someone acts like they believe in me, I have to own it and act like I believe in myself, right? And so we had put in the application to do it, but you're not guaranteed a match or a fight. Like even if you apply and say, hey, I want to do this, the first step is putting yourself out there, right? You got to apply. And so I did that. And I didn't think I was going to get anything. Didn't hear anything, right? Then we go on the Disney cruise, right? And it's the week of the super fights. It's like a Monday. We're coming home, or a Sunday. I can't remember. But we're literally driving home after getting off of a cruise ship. I'm probably 5 pounds heavier because I've been on a cruise. And and I remember getting a text, I think it was from Ashley Richard, who's been on my podcast, who's Avery's wife, gym owner of Triumph Fight Academy. And she was like, hey, we think we found you a match. She's like, do you want to do this? And I was like, whoa, I had so many questions.
Yeah, we completely forgot about it too, because we had just been on vacation.
Right? I'm like, I'm, again, probably heavier. I'm like, I don't even know if I can make weight. I'm like, who's this girl? Like, how much experience does she have? Is this gi or no gi? I have so many questions, right? And I was just like, yeah, they were so accommodating. They're like, yeah, this weight. Yeah, do you want to do no gi? It can be no gi. And I just remember all that. So the night the fight happens, Hannah had her fight that day.
Yes.
It was a great match, Hannah. I think Kevin and Jacob had a baseball game couldn't miss the baseball game. So they're rushing to get to Hannah's super fight. Miss Hannah's super fight. I had to record
I think
it.
they like pulled over on the side of the road and watched it like
Yeah.
live or something.
It was a heck of a fight. Hannah did great. It's not like you got your butt kicked or anything. Like, it was an amazing match. It was a great matchup. And Hannah ended up losing. And I just remember having this, it was almost like, I'm going to use Pam's phrase, a fire in my belly for you, because I was so like, okay, I have to win now. Like, I felt like as your mom, why am I tearing up? As your mom, I felt like I had to do that for you. It was like, and for myself, because I didn't think I would ever do something like that, like be in a match, right? But I was like, okay, I almost felt like it was, I'm going to get all religious, but I almost felt like it was the Holy Spirit saying, Bethany, you got to dominate now. You got to win for her. You got to win for your daughter. Like, you can do this. And yeah, so then that night, I remember having feeling anxious, like, before going on. But the second the cage door closes, and both of you can attest to this, Hannah and Jacob, because you've done it. The second the door closes, it's like, okay, I'm in this, and I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I remember Sarah, the girl I went against, she was so intense, right? Like, she, right out the gate, I was like, what am I in for? I just remember being like, I've got to go. I've got to fight. And I've never done anything like that. It took a lot out of me, but I just remember just fighting my hardest. I think I got hit in the nose. I got a bloody nose, probably the first 10 seconds of the match. I remember I got to the ground. I remember all of a sudden, I think we got back to our feet again. And if you guys know me, I am terrified of takedowns. Takedowns, just because of my age, I get nervous about like doing something wrong, hurting myself, hurting my opponent. And so takedowns were a little scary for me, and kind of still prove to be to this day. And I remember we had to stand back up, then we were back on the ground again, and it was just a back and forth. But long story short there, I did end up winning. Not only did I win 18-2, I had 18 points to her 2 points, but I also tapped her. I submitted her with
Made
mother's
her
milk.
scream.
Yeah, she screamed, can't breathe.
Bethany, walk and hold with
And I have so much respect for her. Don't get me wrong. She like flew down from Michigan. She was from Michigan. How cool is that? Like, another Michigander. But I remember she took the match last minute too. So kudos to her. She was amazing. She was super strong. And she had been in it, I think, we were talking in the back before we even went out. And I remember she had been in probably just maybe a couple months less than I had. But I ended up tapping her, and that was a really awesome moment. And then I just remember, like, you're so delirious in that moment. You don't know what the score is. I don't know. I had no idea if I was, like, winning, really. I know I tapped her, and I just remember being excited. And it was so funny. At the time, like, Triumph has changed their super fights now. Like, now the TV's up in the cage, and it's up not in the cage, but up above the cage, and everyone can see it. You can see the score. Like, Jacob half the time's looking at it during his matches and paying attention to the score. I know you are. But I just remember looking at the TV because it was down below in this super fight, because it was one of the first ones I feel they ever did, or one of the first, like, few.
Yeah, it was the like second or something.
And I remember seeing the score 18-2, and I was like, did I have 18? I remember, like, I was so delirious, like, had no idea. And I remember seeing the color, and I looked down at the band that was on my ankle, and I was like, oh, that's me. I'm like, I would have had 18-2. Like, I just remember being so proud of myself. Not only did I submit someone in a cage match, but I also would have won regardless because I was already ahead in points, 18-2. That's probably, to this day, I think the most points I've ever scored in a jiu-jitsu match.
That's
like,
a lot of points.
That's a lot of points, I think. So I was just so proud of myself for even doing that, putting myself out there. And then being a teacher and talking about that. That's crazy. Like, to think that I'm a teacher and then I'm educating kids, and then 1 minute I'm doing a caged match. Like, it was pretty awesome. So, you know, Daddy will ask me every now and then, hey, do you want to do another? And I'm like, no, one and done. I'm like, bucket list, check, I'm done. I won. It was a great match. Like, I never thought that would have ever happened in my lifetime, but it did. And so I think I'm good. I'm going to ride on that win or that win forever. So, yeah.
So we've talked a lot about like things you've done in your life that are like amazing and you appreciate. But if you had to pick, what is the hardest thing you have ever done?
That was probably one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, having kids, yes, absolutely. That was very hard. I don't know. I don't know if I can narrow this down to one. I would say, obviously, having the two of you, that was hard in its own way. It's its own way of hard. I remember national boards, like that was hard in its own way. Like it was a longer journey spread out. But I remember the night that, I found out I was nationally board certified was probably one of the best days of my life. Daddy and I stayed up until like midnight because I think the scores were released at midnight and you got it on your computer. And I just remember opening my computer and seeing fireworks because they legit have fireworks go off and it says, congratulations, you're a national board certified teacher. And like, let's go back to that. That was a year of my life. I started it. I did it an entire school year. This would have been 2017-18 school year because I certified. I found out I got it in December of 2018. But you submit all of the work you do for an entire school year. You submit that in a portfolio process and you submit that in May. I didn't find out I was certified till December. It takes from May to December for them to review your work. I took a test in June. There's a testing component. I had to do that. And that was pretty hard. And so that whole process was really hard. And then finding out I got it was one of the best days of my life too, I would say. Because I wasn't sure if I could do it. And I proved to myself that I could. And I've since proved it again. But that was one of my hardest things I've ever done. And then I would say also my cage match. I would also say Daddy going to Iraq. Like,
yeah,
there's been a lot of,
because there's like a lot of challenges
hard things
in life, and like,
yeah,
especially because you're older. I mean, not to call you old.
No,
but like,
I know.
You're 43
a lot of experiences.
years old. That's a lot of years and a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, like every day there's at least like one challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, and then, there's other types of hard. College is always hard because you're navigating life kind of on your own. And I remember college was hard. Like there was a stint in college too where I had to learn how to be an adult. Who am I going to be? And I'm somewhat responsible, but I'm somewhat making irresponsible decisions because I'm in college and my parents aren't telling me yes or no. Like managing money was hard in college. And there has been a lot of hard in my life. And I would say though, more recently, those would be probably the hardest things though I've ever had to go through. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, it wasn't one. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
It's a hard question.
Jacob's gonna ask the next question.
What is something you are most proud of?
Something I'm most proud of. I think my family, you guys. I mean, this family here. Like, I love my family, but I'm really proud of how far Daddy and I have come, like 25 years together. I'm proud of what we've established. I'm proud of you guys. And yeah, I mean, I've named some other things, obviously, that I'm proud of in my life. But yeah, I'm proud of where you guys are. I'm proud of the fact that I get compliments all the time. I know Daddy and I both do. We get compliments on who you guys are. And that makes me proud because I want to say even last night, like Miss Pam, she said it last night. She goes, your kids are so well behaved. And she's like, they are amazing. And then she texted me. She texted me about you guys, about our family and just how she loves our family. And that matters to me. Not that I'm like making you or training you guys into these little soldiers or anything or trying to fit you into a certain box because you are who you are. But I feel like you're respectful. You both work hard at what you do. You sports, school, you're working hard at. You both love God. You have Jesus in your heart. You both are just loving. You say the sweetest things to Mommy and Daddy. So like, I'm proud of that. We worked hard. We're intentional with our parenting. And I think, a big part for me is that I'm raising you to be Christians. I think if you're a Christian and you love Jesus and you try to live a life that is in line with what he wants you to do, I think that's really important. And I think one day you'll be successful and you'll be proud of where you're at too, because we've laid that foundation. And so yeah, I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that you're here doing this right now. That takes a lot too. And I'm just proud of the family unit we've built.
Yeah.
Even through the good and the bad, right? Like, we're not perfect. We have days where we're all yelling at each other. I have mornings are rough in our car. We've gotten a lot better the older they've gotten, but we're not perfect. But I'm just proud that you are who you are in this life we've built.
That's good. So this goes off of being proud, but if you had to look back in your past, would you think you'd ever be where you are right now?
Oh, that's a good question. No, the answer is no. I think I dreamt of this life. Daddy has a joke. Kevin has a joke. He always says this to everyone, that I'm living my dream. He's like, oh, you get to live your dream, you know. He's like, you know, little girls, you know, fantasize or think most of the time that, like, oh, I'll get married one day and have a family and a house. And it doesn't always pan out that way for everybody. I'm not saying that that's how it is, but, like, you know, that's what I thought of when I was a kid, right? Like, that's what I wanted. And no joke, when I was a kid, I loved the name Kevin. And I was like, I'm going to marry a Kevin, because I loved Kevin from DC Talk. I'm not going to lie. DC Talk was one of my bands that I listened to when I was younger in high school. And I loved Kevin. And I'm like, that's such a good name. And I, no joke, thought I would marry a Kevin. And then look, I found a Kevin. So, yeah, going back to that, I don't think I ever thought I would be here, but I am. And I think I quoted this in another episode too, where it's like, you know, where you're at right now is what you once prayed for, right? Like, and going back to struggle and hard, there's definitely hard days. Like, there are days where I'm like, this is so hard doing this every day. Like, it's hard being the mom. It's hard running everyone everywhere they need to be and being a teacher and being like, because my job is a demanding job. It's hard to do all the things. But I guess that's when you know you have something good, right? When it's hard. And that's worth fighting for, right? So,
yeah.
Getting all emotional.
No, it's all right.
How's my makeup?
It's fine. Okay, I think this is our last question. But who or what has been your biggest source of support in your journey?
Yeah. I always feel bad because I always have lots of answers. I would say Daddy has always been a really big part of my life in my decisions and my journey. I know I roll, but I know it's cliche too. But I would say, like, growing up, it's been different people, right? So, like, growing up, obviously my mom and dad. My mom, I would say, because she's always been the one that believed in me to this day. She's always like, when I tell her things that I've done, she'll be like, I'm not surprised. Like, I know this about you. And she's so proud, right? And she always called us her treasures, her kids. We were her treasures, right? My dad was more quiet. And so he was like a quiet leader, right? Lead by example, right? And he just was a hardworking, God-loving, God-fearing man. And, you know, my dad passed away in 2014, but like, he was my biggest cheerleader too. And I didn't really know it until I went to college, and he started to tell me that he loved me more. He was always quiet and wouldn't say it, but like, when I went to college, then he would say it more often. And, you know, he was just a big support in my life too. And then entered Daddy in college. And, you know, he's always believed in me and always pushed me to be the best I can be. And so he's been a big support. You guys are supportive. And then, you know, also God. And, especially when the going gets rough and you don't have that human support, or you feel like, you know, because emotionally you sometimes tell yourself you're less than, or you're not good enough, or this or that. But I feel like God has always been my backbone too. Like, I've always relied on him. And when the going gets tough, and I know I shouldn't do it only when the going gets tough, but like, that's where my hope lies and my faith lies. And I do turn to him in the good and the bad, but like, that's another source of support. So I would say my family and God are my biggest support systems. Oh, how's my face?
I know I said that was our last question.
Yeah.
But I don't want to end you crying.
No,
so
I know.
I'm going to ask another
person.
question, because I also just thought about something.
Yes.
So in your bio, it says that mentioned singing a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just wondering if you'd want to tell the people more about that.
Yeah. Yeah, singing's always been a big passion, love of mine. I would love to talk about some of those other things too that I wrote. Just the fun things, the frivolous things. But yeah, singing's always been a big part of my life. So like my sisters and I, so I said I have 3 older sisters, Sarah, Rebecca, and Jennifer. And, you know, we grew up in church, and, you know, Matthew didn't really do this. He plays guitar now, but growing up in church, like we grew up in a country church. And it was like, they would literally just be like on Sundays, they knew we loved to sing. So on Sundays, the pastor would be like, do the Ferguson girls want to come up here and sing something? Like on a whim. Like it was a country church. It's not like an Elevation church or like Forest Hill or like where you go and it's like you're at a concert and it's so wonderful and like amazing, right? Like this was wonderful too, but like in a different way. And it probably, the congregation was probably 15 people. Like it was a small little church. And, you know, my mom and dad would come in on Sundays and bring all of us little girls, and, you know, they would dress us alike and they would just have us go up on stage and sing, and we'd sing church songs. And that continued to progress as we got older. I think Sarah and I kind of did it more often. Rebecca and Jennifer would sing too, but they would do it only in a group. But Sarah and I would do solos. And it just became something I love. Praise and worship to this day is something I love. My kids kind of get frustrated because all I ever want to do is listen to Christian music in the car. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I listen to other genres too, but like it's a big part of my life. I get emotional when I sing. For me, that's my way I show God my love, my appreciation, respect. And so singing is a big part. But anyway, so I grew up singing in high school. I was in chorus. I sang at our high school baccalaureate night. Me and another girl, we did a duet. I sang in church growing up, solos my entire life. And then I was invited in high school with another girl in our chorus class. 2 of us were picked. And we did this thing where we had to practice for weeks. We had to drive to a bigger city, and we were there were 100 high school students that were selected, and we sang in a choir with the Saginaw Bay Orchestra. And we did it was called the Christmas Pops concert, and it was televised. So I sang on TV, and we all had our different colored choir robes. It was really cool. And I know my parents taped it somewhere, probably on a VHS tape somewhere. But yeah, we sang with an orchestra, and I'm right on the end. And that was a pretty cool experience. I've sang in church now. We used to go to Transformation Church in South Carolina.
I remember singing there.
And I tried out for the choir there, and I would do one choir a month, like one choir episode a month. But when you did it, like you'd have to sing in all the service times. So it was like a half day's work. Like you would get up 5:30 in the morning, report, because we had to be there by like 7. And then we would do all the service times, and I did that. That was amazing. So I sang at Transformation for a few years. I don't sing now. I really want to. We're at a new church, Forest Hill. We've been there for probably, a year or 2? I mean, since COVID, past
2.
COVID, a couple of years, few years. I haven't done that, but singing is a big part of my life. But with Transformation, we got a really cool opportunity, and I got to sing at a Hornets game, a Charlotte Hornets game.
I remember that.
And I invited some of my kids at the time from my class. Like it was a family night, and Transformation Church, our choir sang a song on the court. That was pretty cool. Yeah. So I got to be on the Charlotte Hornets basketball court and sing a song, and that was pretty awesome. So singing's a big part of my life. I really do love it. I don't do it as much anymore, but like now that I'm in a different church, but I hope to again, because it's how I show God my love.
Yeah. Transformation has always been a big part of our family too. Like I know we don't go there anymore, but like
it was for a good
you
chunk.
used to like sing there, and we'd go like every day, like every Sunday. Like we wouldn't miss a service. Yeah. And Daddy, I think, was like a safety guard or something.
Yeah, like security team.
Yeah, and then
you too.
I was dedicated there. I don't know if about Jacob.
Yeah, you're both dedicated there. They both were. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's always been a big part of our life. And if you want to explain more about like church.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So going back, like I had said, God's been a big part of my life, and I think it's really important to provide that faith background for you guys, because I don't ever want you to feel like you don't have a source of strength or you don't have hope. When I look at what happens in the world and how people seem hopeless, they seem depressed, or like, I mean, yeah, as a Christian, can you get down on yourself? Sure. But like, I want you to have a sense of peace, calm, faith, hope.
Yeah.
And so that is really important to me. So growing up, like when I went to that little country church, then we went to Open Door Missionary Church. We left that church after some church hurt. There was a falling out with the church. The church kind of disbanded. Then we went to Open Door in Sandusky, and we were there. We started going there when I was your age, 11. And I went there and I got married at that church, and then in college I kind of veered away. I heard a statistic one time saying like 70% of college kids don't practice faith. I want to say it was a really like harrowing number. It was kind of crazy to think like a lot of kids in college, because you're not in your hometown, you're not with your family, like it just, things change, right? And people are discovering who they are. So I kind of got away from that. And then, it took us time. In Florida, we found Calvary Chapel. We were at that church, which was a massive mega church. Like that was amazing for the time that we were there. And then we moved to Charlotte. We went to Elevation for a bit and then ended up at Transformation. And then Transformation kind of shut down because of COVID. And now we're at Forest Hill. But we've had some really awesome church families. We've had some great experiences. I'm not saying we're not church hoppers by any means, but like it just took some time to find a place that we call our home church. And for the time, the churches we were at that time, they were great for that moment. And that I feel like everything kind of happens for a reason, right? And so we were there for that time. Maybe we made contacts. We found a good group of people that we still keep in touch with. Some of our friends are now at Forest Hill. But faith has always been really important to me. Like I said, my dad was a minister. So like that was amazing. Can I say one cool fact about my parents? My parents, for 36 years,
Oh, I know what you're about to say.
would preach on a AM radio station, 660 AM. And it was broadcasted in my hometown in Sandusky. And they did that free of charge. That was completely volunteer. They did it from 12:30 to 1 every Sunday for 36 years until my dad passed away. My mom carried it on one additional year after my dad passed away. She did it all by herself, which was, I'm just shocked by that, because that's hard. That takes a lot of strength to do that. But they were a team, and they would just preach. They'd preach the gospel. They would leave church early because church would always be finishing up at the very end. They'd leave every Sunday and go, and we would go with them. And one cool thing about that is I would be on the radio every now and then. They would invite us in if we had a testimony, or if we had, a couple times we sang on there. Like they would have us kids come in and speak on the radio with them. And we'd be like a special guest here and there. So I should have known podcasting was in my blood back in the day. So yeah, we're gonna, that's awesome to have you guys do something like that, and to know that I did that when I was a kid too. That's kind of cool. But anyway, faith has been really important. But
So, I just wanted to say one more thing.
okay.
So on your bio, it says you love dress up. Now I know that you're a very fun teacher, and you're always decorating your classroom.
Yeah.
So dress up is like when you always like dress up for the dress up days.
So I know that sounds weird. I said dress up. No, I'm not walking around my house playing dress up. But I really love spirit days, social days, right? Like I'm also, like I said, social committee person, right? So like for the school. So like it's fun for me. Like it makes it fun to go to work. Work's boring and mundane. And so it's fun to like get dressed up and have something new and fun and cool to wear, and get people to be like, oh, fun, and again, it spreads happiness.
All right. So do you have anything else you want to say before we close?
I think we hit on a lot of really cool things. I know like other things come up when I'm doing the other episodes. So yeah, we'll just finish it up there. And I love talking with you guys, though. You guys are so cute.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to have Jacob come maybe do it. I know it's a women's podcast, but maybe we could do something where we interview you. All right. So.
Okay. If you can support us, we now have released Gunz and Bunz merch at gunzandrolls.com. Finally, I would love to invite you to share this podcast with someone, and like and subscribe to Gunz and Rollz to see more Gunz and Bunz episodes like this one. Oh, also, we got you some Mother's Day presents off of Gunz and Bunz, or Gunz and Rollz.
Awesome.
So I hope you're going to like them.
I will. Thanks so much for doing this, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I love you, Mom. You're the best mommy to ever have. You're beautiful. You're good at everything. You're talented, so that's like the same thing. But you are the best. No one is better than you. And you can help us with everything. And whenever anybody needs help, you are there. You are the best mommy to ever have.
Hi, Mommy. Happy Mother's Day. I love you so much, and I appreciate you so much. You do everything for this family, and you're just a big deal. I don't know what we'd do without you. Love you.